China's first cosmonaut around the Earth's orbit. Tonight we begin a two-part series on China's space industry, a tightly guarded secret, and the significance of the nation's first manned flight. In our first episode, we retrace China's great leap into space, culminating in the SHENZHOU spacecraft, which Chinese scientists insist is a product of their own sweat and intellect. The Russians have a different opinion. As expectations mounted over China's first manned spaceflight, an exhibition showcasing the SHENZHOU spacecraft's re-entry capsule began a nationwide tour. But it was withdrawn from display the day before its debut. The organizers say it's too sensitive. It was replaced by a replica. Not only China's spacecraft, but the identities of its spacemen are also shrouded in secrecy. It's now known 14 Air Force pilots have been trained, but only one with the best mental and physical conditions would become China's first cosmonaut. This poster promoting Russia's first manned spaceflight featured a fictitious cosmonaut. The name Yuri Gagarin was revealed only after his historic flight in 1961. And only upon seeing the enthusiastic crowds on TV did his parents realize their son had become a national hero. In the suburbs of Moscow is a military-restricted area called Star City. The name hardly reflects the stodgy complex, which for decades has been the training ground for Russia's cosmonauts as well as those from many nations. China also sent its spacemen here to be honed, but their faces do not appear in the pictures displayed. The head of Star City said China did not want the publicity.
They're right in doing so. Before the actual flight, you shouldn't have too much coverage on how you do it and the results.
This military transport plane is equipped for one of the drills cosmonauts have to undergo. When the plane attains 35,000 feet, the pilot would let it fall to 25,000 feet. The rapid loss of altitude creates a semblance of zero gravity. This was part of the training Chinese cosmonauts did when they came here to Star City several years ago. The periods of weightlessness last for 20 to 30 seconds. Floating in the air is a big test of a person's faculties controlling equilibrium. It's hard to coordinate the movement of your limbs when you're weightless. You can easily feel faint and nauseous. And cosmonauts in space have to be alert enough to operate machines. But as the Russians and Americans have found from decades of experience, endurance to weightlessness can be honed. On this flight, some Russian trainers and fee-paying tourists succumbed to zero gravity. At Star City, Chinese cosmonauts were also trained in this neutral buoyancy simulator, floating in the water to simulate weightlessness while learning to walk in space and to repair space stations.
In fact, the Chinese have started their training programs for their cosmonauts in spacewalking. China is certain to build a space station. It's only a matter of time.
Pushkar says spacemen often find themselves in helpless situations, and he finds the Chinese cosmonauts highly organized, disciplined, and determined to reach their goals.
We brought them to Moscow suburbs, where there are many swamps and mosquitoes. It had been raining non-stop for 2 days. Conditions were really bad, but I can tell you, their performance was brilliant. Some of our experts were worn out and had to take off for a week afterwards, but the Chinese cosmonauts started something fresh the very next day.
According to their Russian report cards, one of the Chinese cosmonauts was named Wu Jie and the other Li Xinglun. For their various drills, they received 4 or 5 marks. Full marks at Star City is 5.
The report in my hand is already good proof that they can complete any tasks in a spacecraft.
For decades, Russia and the United States have honed their spacemen with the same grueling regiment. So it's an open book, which China also uses in the training of its cosmonauts. But Beijing keeps under tight wraps where China is at in terms of spacecraft technology as it readied for its first manned flight. So what can China learn from Russia on that front? Immersed in the night sky, communing with the stars have always been.
Four years ago, the Shenzhou 1 was successfully launched. Some 40 years ago, the Soviet Union launched the Soyuz. It has been upgraded over the years. After American space shuttles were grounded, the Soyuz has been used to transport spacemen and reprovision the International Space Station. Yuri Grigoriev is Deputy General Manager of Energia, the Russian corporation which, since the Soviet days, has designed and manufactured spacecraft, including the Soyuz, as well as space stations.
На котором летали Беляев с Леоновым и на котором тоже был совершен исторический первый выход в открытое космическое пространство вот через этот шлюз. Это было в 1965 году.
Grigoriev says his company sold the Soyuz to China in 1995, but China didn't want to publicize it.
The Chinese are very proud of the things they made themselves, but if they have to use other people's designs, it would hurt their national dignity. So they didn't want to say they bought this from Russia.
Grigoriev said China only bought the re-entry capsule because it couldn't afford the whole Soyuz.
When talks began in 1994, the two parties discussed buying the whole set of the Soyuz. But commercially speaking, the Chinese might have thought the price too high, or the government didn't allocate enough money. So they decided to buy the re-entry capsule only.
Grigoriev wouldn't say, but a Russian official disclosed the complete Soyuz would cost $60 million. Liu Dun teaches spacecraft design at Harbin Technology Institute. Liu bought this old Vostok re-entry capsule for about 200,000 yuan for his classes. He says in making a spacecraft, it's best to have the real thing for reference.
The USSR and the US have sent men into space many times, but we haven't done so yet. So why not learn from others? Don't close the door on ourselves. Why not learn the world's most advanced things?
This is the Moscow Aviation Institute. In 1992, after Beijing approved the sending of the Chinese cosmonaut into space, it sent aerospace personnel to this classroom to learn spacecraft design. Oleg Anifinov had taught them. Quite a few experts have noted the orbital module of the Shenzhou spacecraft is bigger than that of